Article 305. False key. The term false key shall be deemed to include, number 1, the tools mentioned in the next preceding articles. Number 2 is genuine keys stolen from the owner. And number 3 is any case other than those intended by the owner for use in the lock forcibly opened by the offender. Article 310. Qualified theft. The crime of theft shall be punished by the penalties next higher by 2 degrees than those respectively specified in the next preceding article. If committed by a domestic servant or with grave abuse of confidence, or if the property stolen is motor vehicle, mail matter, or large castle or consists of coconuts taken from the premises of the plantation or fish taken from a fish pond or fishery, or if property is taken on the occasion of fire, earthquake, typhoon, volcanic eruption, or any other calamity, vehicular accident, or civil disturbance. Article 315. Swindling or estafa. Any person who shall defraud another by any of the means mentioned herein below shall punish by: first is the penalty of prison correctional in its maximum period to prison major in its minimum period. If the amount of the fraud is over 12,000 pesos but does not exceed 22,000 pesos, and if such amount exceeds the latter sum, the penalty provided in this paragraph shall be imposed in its maximum period, adding 1 year for each additional 10,000 pesos, but the total penalty which may be imposed shall not exceed 20 years in such cases, and in connection with the accessories penalties which may be imposed under the provisions of this code. The penalty shall be termed prisión mayor or reclusión temporal, as the case may be. Second is the penalty of prisión correctional in its minimum and medium periods. If the amount of the fraud is over 6,000 pesos but does not exceed 12,000 pesos. Third is the penalty of arresto mayor in its maximum period to prisión correctional in its minimum period if such amount is over 200 pesos but does not exceed 6,000 pesos. And fourth is by arresto mayor in its maximum period if such amount does not exceed 200 pesos, provided that in the 4 cases mentioned, the fraud be committed by any of the following means. Number 1, with unfaithfulness or abuse of confidence, namely, by altering the substance, quantity, or quality, or anything of value which the offender shall deliver by virtue of an obligation to do so, even though such obligation be based on an immoral or illegal consideration. Second is by misappropriating or converting to the prejudice of another money, goods, or any other personal property received by the offender in trust or on commission, or for administration, or under any other obligation involving the duty to make delivery of or to return the same, even though such obligations be totally or partially guaranteed by a bond, or by denying having received such money, goods, or other property. Next is by taking undue advantage of the signature of the offended party in blank, and by writing any document above such signature in blank to the prejudice of the offended party or of any third person, by means of any of the following false, pretenses, or fraudulent acts executed prior to or simultaneously with the commission of the fraud, by using fictitious name or falsely pretending to oppose his power, influence, qualifications, property, credit, agency, business, or imaginary transactions, or by means of other similar deceits. Next is by altering the quality, fineness, or weight of anything pertaining to his art or business, by pretending to have bribed any government employee without prejudice to the action for calumny, which of the offended party may deem proper to bring against the offender shall be punished by the maximum period of the penalty Next is by post-dating a check or issuing a check in payment of an obligation when the offender therein were not sufficient to cover the amount of the check. The failure of the drawer of the check to deposit the amount necessary to cover his check within 3 days from receipt of notice from the bank and or the payee or holder that said check has been dishonored for lack of the insufficiency of funds shall be prima facie evidence of deceit, constituting false pretense or fraudulent act. By obtaining any food, refreshment, or accommodation at a hotel, in restaurant, boarding house, lodging house, or apartment house, and the like without paying therefore, with intent to defraud the proprietor or manager thereof, or by obtaining credit at hotel, inn, restaurant, boarding house, lodging house, or apartment house, by the use of any false pretense or by abandoning or surreptitiously removing any part of his baggage from a hotel, inn, restaurant, boarding house, lodging house, or apartment house after obtaining credit, food, refreshment, or accommodation therein without paying for this food, refreshment, or accommodation. Through any of the following fraudulent means, by inducing another by means of deceit to sign any documents, by resorting to some fraudulent practice to ensure success in a gambling game, by removing, concealing, or destroying in whole or in part any court record, office files, document, or any other papers. Article 318. Other deceits. The penalty of arresto mayor and the fine of not less than the amount of the damage caused and not more than twice such amount shall be imposed upon any person who shall defraud or damage another by any other deceit not mentioned in the preceding articles of this chapter. Any person who for profit or gain shall interpret dreams, make forecasts, tell fortunes, or take advantage of the credulity of the public in any other similar manner, shall suffer the penalty of arresto mayor for a fine of not exceeding 200 pesos.